Hey, it's Anthony Meisner with Land Title. I came to bring you your Greater Metro Denver update for the month. Let's kind of dive right into it. Don't forget, we always have this really great highlight reel if you need it, give you some talking points kind of as you get through it. But let's kind of get into the nitty gritty. We are at 50% increase in active listings year over year. Now, more inventory in some cases is a really great thing for the market. You can see in the under contract numbers with buyers out there and active, and with them able to pick and choose a little more, we've really seen more under contracts come into play. The only problem is more inventory also means we get a pullback in our sales price some. So we've seen a drop in average sales price by 4% year over year across the metro markets. Now, we can dive into this a little bit more, but as we're at 9,200 units on the market, that's 50% more than this time last year. You're going to continue to see inventory rise going into the summer months and into the fall, just because that's a seasonal trend, right? We know that's going to happen because that's what seller behavior dictates year after year. Now, let's kind of look at when that takes place and why. So we had this big buyer surge come early on, and that's creating more under contracts. What happens later in the year is we hit peak seller season, March through October, and you can see every year it's like clockwork, right? More sellers this year, though, than usual, right? I mean, even over the last 21 or 22 years, that's 4 years in a row now where this is the highest amount of sellers in a March month. So lots of sellers. Sellers have come off the sidelines. Buyers have seemingly come off the sidelines in some respect, but their behavior has been earlier than usual. So more sellers right now, more buyers right now, but buyers end up drying up where sellers continue this behavior all the way through October. This is what happens. Month supply of inventory starts to rise. We're at 2 months of inventory in the detached market, 2.2 months. It's only about 30% above this time last year. And if you look at some of the other submarkets, they're all almost following the same trend, right? They're all rising, but Jefferson County, Broomfield County are still in this crazy seller's market. Under 2 months of inventory feels good. If you're out kind of by Elbert County, it might feel more like a balanced market or closer to balanced. I'm pushing into that 3-month category. Now, if you look at the attached market, this is where we are in a very different situation. We have less sellers participating in this marketplace, or buyers participating in this marketplace, I'm sorry, lots of sellers. So it's slowed the market down and there's way more inventory already. Last year, we were at 2.1 months of inventory. This year at 4.1 months of inventory. That's a 93% rise over the course of that time, year over year, right? So here's what we run into. We run into this is balanced at best right now. I mean, if you look at, the city of Denver at 5 months of inventory, it's going to be a challenging market for our sellers to get stuff sold in. There might be a lot of opportunity here, but there's been so many hurdles on the uphill side that it's created a slowdown in buyer activity in these markets. So I expect that this is one of those markets where we're going to see more of those price changes, more of that, struggling to get products sold, especially as this could end up in 6 or more months of inventory over the course of the seasonal shift. Now, days in MLS, this is kind of interesting because it's fairly similar, detached and attached, across most of the markets. It's actually fairly similar. Jefferson County at 34 days being the fastest, you pushing on up into Adams County at 56 days. But realistically, submarkets definitely matter, but this is still fairly similar to a year ago. So buyer behavior has kept it consistent even with rising inventory. Now, let's look at price ranges and detached and attached separately. So as we look at the actives and solds for detached single family homes, you can see the bulk of the inventory rise has been really under 2 million. So not a ton of luxury activity here with more active units, but most of the increase in sales is taking place, some in that luxury market, 2 to 3 million, 20% rise, that 800 to a million, 15% increase in activity there. And then the lowest end of the market has also seen a rise, just with some of those buyers coming off the sideline. Now, with people buying the lower end of the product in the detached market, it really affects the attached market. So as people have shifted out of attached and into detached across the board outside of the luxury end, especially the ultra luxury end for the attached product, we're 25% down across most price ranges. So that's really creating some issues with those buyers moving to detached instead of attached. And you're really seeing inventory stacking up across all price ranges, even more so down at the lower end. Now, if we look at it by month supply of inventory, days on market, this is how is it going to feel for your buyers and sellers, right? Detached market, anything under $1 million, it's still going to feel like a pretty aggressive seller's market. It gets way more balanced between 1 and 3 million. and then it's going to feel like a buyer's market for sure at the luxury market. So the higher end is just feeling more and more inventory over time, a little bit less than it was last year, which is good news. But if you look at the days in MLS, it's just not taking a ton of time to sell most of this product, right? The lower end is moving pretty fast. That's 600,000 to 800,000 range, only 41 days in MLS. That's remarkably quick for this time of year. So as we start to see some of these things move in the right direction, we are also going to feel, it take a little bit longer to sell homes at the higher end. If you look at it in the attached market, this is where it's drastically different than detached as well. 4 months of inventory or more, just pretty much across the board. And then as we get into the higher end stuff, of course, we're feeling 6 months of inventory, 7, 8 months of inventory at certain ranges. But it looks like they're going to go fast if they're dialed in, right? Look at this one, 1 to 2 million attached condos or townhouses in Denver metro area. They sold in 36 days in MLS, even with 7 months of inventory. So it tells me there's a lot of products sitting out there that may be overpriced, but the stuff that isn't overpriced or that's really in good shape is still selling fast. So there is demand for it. It's got to be buttoned up, and it looks like it really, really needs to be in a good location, or kind of check all the boxes for those buyers, because it's just not a value play right now. And so we've really seen that take place. Now, what does that do for prices, right? Average sales price for detached single family is basically flat, 0.75% drop across all markets. We still just haven't quite hit those 2022 peaks that we saw, but we are flirting with those lines finally over the last couple of years. We've kind of tried to reach there in the peak of the summer months. We haven't gotten there. This is yet another month or another year where we're seeing very similar market behavior. It's just kind of stagnant, right? So look at Adams County, we're down almost 2%, Arapahoe down, and Elbert is down just a little bit. Douglas is down just a little bit as well. And then we see markets like Broomfield, year over year change of 10%, but there's no inventory. Jefferson County, year over year change of 7%. Also, there's just not a lot of inventory there. So inventory constraints create price rises, right? So we all know that, but you can see it here in the data. Now, the attached market, this is challenging, right? We saw nearly a 10% drop from this time last year. Month over month, we saw a $20,000 drop in sales price, and we're feeling it across many markets. The markets that are feeling it the most are Arapahoe and Denver by far, right? We're feeling almost 12% drop year over year in Denver's price of attached product, and Arapahoe down about 10%. But a lot of the other submarkets are still feeling it too, right? Jefferson County's also felt it with their townhouse condo product. We're talking a $47,000 drop over this time last year. So that is definitely not great news for the marketplace. And what does that do? It changes the sold behavior. So if you got to show somebody what's going on, detached, trending really similar to last year. We sold about 3% more than we did this time last year. It's a great slide to kind of share that. It's easy to read, right? Look at the attached market. You can see where the shortfall is. You can see just every month we've kind of been just not quite getting there. We're 9% down year to date as far as total sales numbers. So last slide that I have to share with you is our percentage list to sale price to help set some expectations around all this. 99.5% list to sale price across all markets. It's on the upswing because it's springtime, right? And this is what happens every year. You can see the seasonality in the chart here, but the biggest is that 800 to a million range at 99.9% list to sale price. Very fascinating to watch that one. You can sort of see over many of the price ranges, and then if you look at submarkets down below, Jefferson County is kind of leading the charge as well there. So interesting to watch in the detached market. If you look at the attached market, this is a tough one because we're at 98.7%, but it doesn't really lead into what's really happening, right? It doesn't show price drops and it doesn't show concessions. So those are all big factors across all of these markets. When we look at our concessions data, you see the same thing. You see they don't factor in concessions, which a lot of people are still getting, even right now in the peak of the spring market. So if you have any other questions, concerns, reach out to me. I'm Anthony at Land Title. Hopefully we catch you next time, and have a great one. Bye.